Hello, I'm Chuck Wolf, Chief Executive for Charles J. Wolf Associates, LLC. As a motivational speaker and a leadership consultant and executive coach and trainer, I often work with very successful people in their companies. Since many can't afford a professional, I volunteer to host a radio talk show called The Emotion Roadmap, Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel, on a nonprofit community radio station in Bridgeport, Connecticut, WPKN. My reason for doing the show is to share with as many people as possible this wonderful process for helping people manage their own emotions and their relationships with others. My goal is for everyone listening to learn to use the Emotion Roadmap to make life better. As you listen to me, help others, I hope you are also learning. As a Simsbury resident, I'm delighted to be able to make the show available through Simsbury TV. To learn more, go to my website, www.emotionroadmap.com. Thank you for listening and watching. And this is Chuck Wolf, and you're listening to the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. And it's nice to be here with you on this wintry day. Just a thought that I'd like to share with you that has something to do with the ride in this morning. If by chance you are unable to scrape off the top of your rooftop and it's icy and you can't get at it, you know it's a dangerous situation for people that are following you. So one of the things that you might consider is to put on your flashers. You know those signal lights that say something's wrong? Just so people are paying attention, because I saw at least 3 or 4 instances where large sheets of ice were just flying off people's cars today. And so I gave a pretty big distance between the way I was driving. Normally, I usually keep at least 3 lengths behind, but today it was about 6 because of some of the ice sheets that were just flying today. It was a very icy day yesterday. And today, looks like it's sunny and nice, but just be careful out there when you're driving, everybody. You're listening to WPKN 89.5 FM, and this is the Emotion Roadmap, and I'm Chuck Wolf. And if you're a regular listener, I just want to say thanks so much for tuning in today. It's always so nice to have you with us and to listen to the show regularly. For those of you who know what the show is, you know that you can call at any time if you've got something you'd like to talk to me about that has been something that you've been waiting to talk to me, because I'm only on twice a month. I'm on 12 to 1 p.m. on Wednesdays. So the first and second Wednesdays, though, of the month, just the first and second Wednesdays of the month from 12 noon to 1 p.m. And the number to call, if you've got something you want to talk to me about, is 203-336-9756. The show is the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. So if how you feel and isn't quite the way you want to feel, if the feelings that you have right now are not helpful for what you want to get done today, or what you're trying to get done, that's a longer term situation, that maybe something that's a project that you're involved with, or a situation at home that's bothering you because you're not sure how to handle something that is complicated and not working the way that you want, give me a call, because so often I find that when smart people are stuck, it's almost always because something emotional is happening. Oh, I think got our first caller, I believe. Yeah, maybe not. This is Chuck Wolf. You're on the air? No, it just looks like a call. Okay. I hope that's working. You can try that later. Anyway, this is, again, Chuck Wolf. You're listening to the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. And the normal situation for the show is that I have topics that I bring in with me to talk about every day, and I have some of those to talk about. And for those of you that might be just listening for the first time, I know a lot of people listen to WPKN, and for whatever reason, they have different times that they might tune in that are a bit unusual as opposed to when they regularly listen. And if you're new to the show, let me explain a little bit about the show. The show is based on science and on art. The science is about the science of emotional intelligence. The idea... let me just check this. I just want to make sure the phone's working. Okay, one of the lines is working, so we should be okay. 203-336-9756. Anyway, So the show's about the science of emotional intelligence. This idea that there are actual abilities that people have that are different. Just like we might have intellectual abilities, like our ability to engage in math or science or verbal ability or spatial ability. All those situations where we know that some of us are really talented, others somewhat talented, and others don't really have much talent in some areas. That's an ability concept that, for when you were in school, for instance, you maybe were good at mathematics, and maybe you got to a certain level in math where you excelled, and then maybe sometime at some point in your history, you realized that, well, I'm really good at a certain point in mathematics. I was great at the fundamentals, but I wasn't so great maybe when it got to calculus. And so, at some level, I realized that I'm not a math genius, but I'm good. I'm good at math. I figured out algebra. I understood trigonometry and geometry and so on. But calculus, I got a little stuck on, and so maybe I'm not a genius at this, but I'm good at it. Or what if you weren't very good at it? I mean, you basically got fundamentals of addition and subtraction and multiplication and division, but you really couldn't get some of the tougher, more conceptual idea of dealing with mathematics, and so you were just okay at it. And then some people really struggle with numbers totally and weren't very good at all at numbers and mathematics. And so the idea of abilities was always present. We've known about it for many, many years. But what we didn't always know was that there are abilities relating to emotions too. And that was only discovered in the 1990s. I mean, we've always talked about being more aware, knowing how we feel, trying to control our emotions. None of that is new by itself. But the fact that the idea of emotional intelligence is that we have abilities that are different from one another. So for instance, the ability to know how somebody is feeling, to really know with a high degree of accuracy of how somebody is feeling, is unusual, to be extremely accurate. Most of us are somewhat accurate at being able to accurately say how someone else is feeling, or even how we ourselves are feeling. Now, you'd think that might be easier, but if you've ever been somewhat confused, ambivalent, indecisive about certain situations, it becomes somewhat hard to know exactly how you're feeling. And we don't always have a language to describe the feelings we have. We might be sensitive to different nuances of feelings, but not have a really good vocabulary for describing it. So these psychologists discovered this idea that there are 4 major areas of ability in emotions, and one of them is the ability to identify, to know what somebody else is feeling. And just like in mathematics, we have certain people that are brilliant at it, some that are okay at it, and some that are really poor at it. But what's very interesting, I mean, a lot of this is very interesting actually, but what's very interesting to me is that the people that might think they're really good at it aren't always the ones that are. Think about that for a minute. What if you thought or think you were really good at identifying how others feel, and you're really messing up because you're operating on certain assumptions that you think are accurate, and they're not? What if a good number of times you're making a mistake about how you believe somebody else is feeling, but you're operating as if you're right? And that really complicates relationships. So the show's about helping you understand how to look more at trying to gauge how somebody is feeling. That starts with knowing what you are feeling and what somebody else is feeling that you might be dealing with. The other is to understand this really powerful idea that the use of emotion, very few people have ever really thought much or talked much about this, and that is that there are certain emotions that are really much better for particular tasks than other emotions. For example, if you're going to be making a presentation, or you have a sales pitch, or you have something where you want to influence a legislator, or you want to change a behavior of someone on your workforce or on your team, or you want to influence your son or daughter's choices in high school about, who they hang out with or what they experiment with and so forth. I mean, you've got high stakes situations. You want to feel confident knowing you have an approach that's very likely to work, that you are highly prepared, that you've really thought things through, that you understand not just your own feelings about something, but you also appreciate and are empathic to the feelings of the person or people you're dealing with on the other side of the issue. And that you've put a plan together that really addresses how you're feeling and how he or she or they are feeling. So the idea of use of emotion is very powerful. In other words, if what you're feeling and what another person is feeling that you're dealing with is not the feeling you want for you or for them, what is the right feeling? Typically, few of us ask that question. And even if we ask the question, we're not sure how to answer it. So this show is all about teaching you about the idea of how do you do better at identifying how you're feeling and how someone else is feeling, that you're involved with, that you're dealing with, that you're trying to influence or to sell or to change or to gain acceptance or to be a part of. Say you're trying to join a group and you want to belong to a certain organization or group. All these things involve emotions. I mean, some of our great advertising agencies and marketing firms know that people buy on emotion. We convince ourselves that we're making rational decisions after we satisfy our emotional needs. I want that car. I want that piece of stereo equipment. I want that new cell phone. And then after we make that emotional choice, we justify it somehow. We justify about why that's the right car or why we needed a new cell phone and so forth. We add the rational afterwards and we think we're making rational decisions. So this whole idea of emotion is all geared into understanding that there are ability to identify, the ability to use the right emotion in the right situation. The ability to understand is a third part of this model that speaks to knowing how emotions work. If we want to change an emotion, let's say from anxious to confident, how do we do that? And that's why I call it a science and an art. The science teaches us how emotions work in general. The art is to know what works for me isn't necessarily the same as what works for you. So trying to understand what works for you is also what I try to help with in this show. And then finally, the last part that's really important about this model is managing emotions, which is this idea that all of us, I would assume all of us, want to be excellent at managing our own emotions. And some of us, again, are really, really good at it. Others are okay at it. Some of us really struggle with this a lot. And I'm not just saying on a particular emotion or in a single situation. I'm saying in general that this is an ability. The ability to manage emotions is measurable. We are different in our ability to manage our own emotions, and the differences matter. And the final part of this model is also part of managing emotions, but it's not managing our own emotions. It's our ability to manage or at least influence the emotions of others. And our relationships often depend on that. If we have good relationships with people, it means that when they are with us, they experience mostly positive emotions. They laugh with us, they enjoy our company, they like being around us, they feel good about themselves when they're with us. There's a lot of things that go into this that are relationship-based. So again, it's not so much that we haven't talked about these issues forever, since men and women had language between the sexes and with each other, and also just in terms of the thoughts we have in our own heads. So we've been thinking about how to manage our own emotions forever. We've been thinking about how that other person feels forever. That's not new. What's new, in terms of conceptually at least, is that the idea of our emotional intelligence is partly based on our abilities. Now, whether those abilities are inherited or learned, culture-based or experienced and so forth, I think it's all of that. I think some of it is genetics. I also think some of it is about what we learn and what we experience. If we grow up in a home where there's an alcoholic, it's darn hard to see that person as a role model for how to manage emotions. Or a drug addict. Or if we grow just in a home where people are verbally or physically abusive. Certainly, those are terrible role models, and we can only grow from our experiences outside of the home then if that's going on inside the home. So maybe we were lucky and we had a mentor or a teacher or a coach or a counselor somewhere along the way that brought us in and helped to raise us and helped to give us some additional skills in how we dealt with things going on inside of us. But no matter what kind of help you had, no matter what your DNA and genetic structure is in terms of your abilities on being able to deal with emotional stuff, I will say that I do believe all of us can be better if we learn this concept that I call an emotion roadmap. And the beauty of the show is that if you call in and I'm able to help you, at the same time I'm helping you, I'm explaining how the emotion roadmap works. So not only do you get some help, hopefully you get some help, but everybody else that's listening is learning how this works, so hopefully they're getting help as well. The idea of asking yourself whenever you're stuck, whenever you're uncertain, whenever you're doubtful and confused, hey, wait a minute, what am I feeling now? If the feeling I have isn't helpful, if I could make magic happen somehow, what would I want to feel? What would be ideal to feel? And then thinking about that for a few moments, and then figuring out what you want to feel. And then saying, okay, if what I'm feeling isn't helpful, and I'm feeling sad, depressed, embarrassed, whatever it might be, and I want to feel supported, cared about, confident, whatever I want to turn the feelings into, what's my plan for that? How do emotions work? How do I work? How do I do that? And then on the management piece, once you've thought about what you're feeling and have decided it isn't helpful, and you realize that there are other feelings that would be more ideal for you and perhaps if somebody else you're dealing with as well, and you've thought about what those feelings would be, and then you think about how emotions work and how you work, and perhaps if you're dealing with somebody else, how it might work for them to change to the feelings you want for them. And you put a plan together, you put several plans together, you come up with a number of scenarios or strategies or tactics that potentially can move you and these other people to where you want them to be and where you want to be. Then you have to ask yourself, is this something I'm really willing to do? Am I willing? I mean, sometimes we have great plans, but honestly, something inside of us, either our values are conflicted or we have an attitude about a certain kind of approach. We just may not be willing to do something that, even though it's going to work, we just refuse to do it. So if we're unwilling, or not very willing, we probably don't have a plan. It isn't going to happen. But the other question, just as important, but very different, is are we really able to do it? Do we have the time to do it? Do we have the energy to do it? If it's going to cost something, do we have the wherewithal and the means to do it? And finally, are we really capable of doing this? Do we have the abilities we need to do this? And if we answer yes, we're very willing, and yes, we're very capable, then you got a plan. And that's how the show works. So let's see if anybody wants to call in. The number to call is 203-336-9756. Again, I'm Chuck Wolf. You're listening to the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. And this is one of the 2 Wednesdays a month that I'm on the air that you've got a chance to call and get some help for something where you've been stuck for a while. Might be something that just came up recently, last day or two. Might be something going on for you that's been happening for months or even years. I've been able to help some people with some very long-term problematic situations in their life that they've really been stuck on. The funny thing is about helping people is that sometimes when you're stuck, you're all caught up in the context. And by helping you to focus on the emotional aspects of what's going on, sometimes it feels like magic happens. So again, let's see if we get somebody to call in. It's always more fun if I take calls. If I don't get any calls, I'm happy to talk for the hour. I have plenty to say. So But it's more fun if you call in, and I love helping people, and that's why I do the show. So let's see if we got a caller. 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. I'll give you a moment to call. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
My name is Tina.
Hi, Tina. Thanks for the call.
Hi.
How can I help you?
I think I'm stuck.
Okay. You want to tell me where you're stuck? I probably could be more helpful if you do.
Well, I don't know what my purpose in life is. After a divorce, it's been a couple of years now. I still don't know my purpose. So I'm struggling with that.
Did you say your name was Tina?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to stop for 1 second, Tina. I just want to tell, there's another caller on another line, and I'm by myself in this show, so I can't pick up a second call. So if you're calling and you're listening, you can wait till Tina and I are done. I'd love to take your call afterwards. Thanks. So Tina, you're struggling with trying to find a purpose in life, and you said that the divorce happened, and so you felt like that sort of ended the kind of purpose you thought you had in life. Was part of that? Part of your purpose was marriage?
That's pretty much it. Because that was my life. Or that was my purpose.
Okay, so you need to you need to find something else that's meaningful to you, right?
Yes, and I keep finding things that are meaningful. I mean, I just got hired for another job. So I keep getting employment, but is that what it's all about?
Well, it's I think it's all about everything. Right? I mean, it's partly what you do in terms of work. If you're a worker outside the home or even inside the home, it's partly about your personal life. It's your community. It's whatever your affiliations are. Well, I mean, I think it's about everything. But it's not always. But everything isn't always what's key to individuals, and every individual has their own need to find something meaningful to them. So when you say you want to define a purpose, tell me what you think purpose is.
Well, it must be something that I'm here for, a reason why I'm even here.
Okay. What
am I to accomplish here?
So my guess is that you've thought about this a lot.
Yes.
And you've come up with a whole bunch of things that haven't worked. Is there anything that maybe sounds like it's possible meaning to you in terms of purpose at this point?
I don't know, because it's an open road for me. I could purchase my own house. Right now I'm living with a friend, or I could, be alone there, or I could move. There's so many opportunities that I could take. I just don't know which one to take.
So do you have a family, Tina? You said that you were married.
No, everybody's grown up and out and doing their own thing.
So your purpose isn't about being supportive of your family at this point?
Oh, I am still supportive of my daughter, very much so. I'm her biggest cheerleader.
Is that not somewhat purposeful?
That is very purposeful. That is my only purpose right now.
Okay, so then you're not without purpose totally. You have some purpose. So you have a purpose in that area, right?
Yeah, yes, I do.
Okay, and then when you are in the workplace, have you started your new job yet?
No.
And
no.
Now you seem to have you don't seem to have trouble getting employment. You said?
Oh, I don't have problems with that at all.
So some of what other people value is really good workers and people that make a contribution and are a part of a team that feels like they really enjoy being with the other people. Are you someone who shows up in the workplace like that?
Yes. Dependable, team worker, loving work, hard work.
And so
that's purpose, I guess.
I mean, it would seem like it seems like you care a lot about that.
Yes.
So there's a second area of purpose. I guess you're feeling somewhat unfulfilled because you mentioned the divorce first. So is it important for you to have a relationship with another human being in a very special way? And is that the part that's missing from your purpose?
Yes, I think so.
So have you thought about ways where you might connect with other people? I'm not necessarily in an intimate relationship, but in ways where you become, generate really, really powerful friendships with people?
No, because I don't really go out or do anything like that. So
I wonder if yeah, does it have to be an intimate relationship, or can it just be new strong friendships that also fill another area of purpose?
well, I don't even know if I want that.
Ah,
Either of them, strong friendships or intimate relationships.
so that's the area of confusion for you.
Well, it's probably emotional because I guess there's residual anger.
Ah,
So the anger, there was a reason for the anger. Some boundary was crossed.
okay. So how long has the divorce been in place?
2 years.
2 years, you said?
Yeah.
So you're still dealing with the, I don't know, you said anger. I'm thinking it sounds, though, if they cross the line, then it's betrayal. It's even beyond anger. Does that sound right?
It does.
Yeah. So,
It's not one-sided. It's
okay.
multifaceted. It's just complicated.
So something didn't work. Something very important to you didn't work in your life, and that's the reason that you're struggling with purpose. Because it sounds like you do have purpose. You have purpose in the workplace. You certainly have. I mean, if you're your daughter's biggest cheerleader, that's a very meaningful role in life, and you know that. But I just want to point it out. But the piece that's missing for you is what else is going to matter to me. And one of the things that was a big part of purpose for you was the relationship that you no longer have. And it feels like that's a big hole, and that's what you're struggling with. Does that sound right?
That is right.
Okay. So then the question becomes, what do you do about it? How do you want to feel going forward? Do you want to feel, and you don't know this yet, but in terms of if you could if you could make magic happen for you, and it's several years out, how are you feeling and why are you feeling that way? If it all works out, how would you want to be feeling right now, different than you are today?
Actually, I'm probably happier now than I've ever been, but without purpose. I feel like I'm without purpose. Maybe I'm just not identifying with what my purpose really is, which is to work hard, to serve, and take care of my daughter and her family, I guess.
And what if you got to the place where that was plenty? In other words, if you said a couple things, so you said work, and we talked about what work means. We talked about your daughter and what that means. But you also said to serve. Tell me more about that. What does that mean to you?
To help people, to serve or be of value to people.
Okay. So, and you also said that the relationship breakup was multifaceted. It wasn't one-sided. So you had a role in this, you feel?
Oh, yeah. I don't think any relationship breakup would be one-sided, ever.
Okay.
It's impossible.
So, just to try to be helpful to you, and I could be wrong about this, but this is somewhat typical, so I'm going to want to say it, is that just listening a bit to you, it sounds like it isn't just about the other person in the relationship. You're also upset with yourself.
Yes. Well, I know that. Yeah.
Okay. So part of this is like being able to forgive yourself. And rather than rather than look at that and try and focus on that, you're talking about purpose. But the reason it's interesting, Tina, is that for a lot of people, having a great relationship with a daughter, where the daughter views you as her cheerleader, that's huge in people's lives. Not everybody has a good relationship with their children, so that's a big piece of the puzzle. The second is, if people really like working with you and you work really hard at making sure that people experience themselves when they're with you in a positive way, which it sounds like you do, and why it's easier for you than others to get hired, that's also very purposeful. So the piece that's missing isn't maybe finding more purpose. It's more about being forgiving of yourself and whatever might have happened with the other person. And just,
I think you're right. Yeah.
So if that's
Why
right,
not?
then you want to feel like, oh, how do I get to feeling like I'm okay again, and I can forgive myself, learn from what happened, and move on? How do I do that? That's the question then.
Right. Yeah,
So
I do go to different self-help sites
yeah.
that tell me things just like what you said. Forgiving yourself, have compassion for yourself, take care of yourself, forgive others.
So sometimes it comes over time where you just live day to day and you just work on doing the right thing. I mean, there's a lot of mistakes that many of us have made in our lives that we wish more than anything we could have back and do over. And we can't do something in the past over. But what we can work on is what we do in the future or in the present, in terms of things that we might do that make things right. We can't change what we did, but we can make sure we don't do something like that again, and that we work just really hard to give back to others. And we find purpose in that. And that the forgiveness isn't just about saying the words, it's about doing certain deeds that leads you to believe you're worth forgiving. And you're already doing a lot of stuff that works in that way, but maybe there's more you could do that would allow you to feel like this is my plan for myself. Because, in other words, for me to say that you just want to forgive yourself and then the phone call, that's interesting and maybe even right, but it's not helpful because you don't know how to do it. So if you want to know how to do it, I'm suggesting a possible way to do this. But I could also ask you, I don't know if you've ever had something happen in your life before where you were mad at yourself. And if you did, were you somehow able to overcome it? And if you were, that's worth thinking about too. Has there been an experience previously where you might have felt something that was, different?
Probably many experiences.
Well, what works for you then? In other words, if you've had some experiences where you've actually been able to forgive yourself after making a few mistakes, what worked?
Okay, I'll take that and think about it.
Okay, well, all
All
right. Well, I mean, one of the things that I'm suggesting is that if you've got something that's in your past that you can learn from, I know they're not the same experiences, but if you found something useful that you figured out that, hey, when I've been in this place before, here's a couple of things that I've done in the past that have been helpful. It's not going to be a perfect fit, Tina, but it'll be at least lead you in the direction of the kind of things you want to be thinking about now. The other thing that occurs to me is you talked about being of service. You talked about wanting to help people. Maybe do a little more of that if you can, if you have the time, and not focus on finding a new partner or finding a new relationship, but instead focus on feeling better about yourself.
Finding me, yeah.
Yeah, because if you can do that, you're gonna find other people are gonna want to be in a relationship with you. I'm not saying intimate, but in other words, if you don't feel good about yourself, sometimes it's hard for other people to want to be around you. But if you've got a plan and you're working on your plan every day to feel better about yourself, to do the right things going forward, with the understanding that you can't change the past. The past happened. I want to learn from it. I don't want to make the same mistake again. But I want to go forward. I'm not going to be perfect, but I'm going to do what I know I can do that makes a meaningful difference for other people. And that's the way I'm going to forgive myself. And when you start to believe that and you act on it, it's going to change how you're feeling. And it's going to attract other people to you when you're feeling better about yourself.
Okay, Chuck, that's good. Good words. I'm going
Okay.
to take it to heart and really think about it.
Okay, Tina. Thanks a lot for the phone call and best of luck with it.
Thank you for the advice.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so again, the emotion roadmap, for those of you who were able to listen to a conversation with Tina, it was, we're calling in about not having a purpose, but diving a little deeper, finding out there's some things that need to be forgiven about ourselves. So how do we feel good about ourselves again? So feeling upset with ourselves and then want to feel proud of ourselves, feel confident in ourselves, believe in ourselves again, and then putting a plan together to accomplish that and maybe we thought of something together that might work, and then Tina's got some things that maybe have worked in her past that she could think about. And it's always great if you've got something in your past where you can learn from an experience where it wasn't the same experience, but the feelings were similar. In other words, like you're anxious now and you want to be confident for whatever. And there's probably lots of times in your life that you've been anxious and wanted to be confident. And I ask you to think about, well, what changed? What made you go from feeling anxious to being confident? What made you go from being upset with yourself to feeling good about yourself again? Do you have a history of that? And if you do, can you learn from that history and employ that in the way that you work with somebody else or you work with yourself? So I want to thank Tina for the phone call. I know there was another caller, and if you're still listening and you want to call back in, let me give you the number again. 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. And I'll give you a minute of the call. Two 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. Okay, so the other caller is not calling in. But if you've got something and you would like to chat with me about it and you think I might be helpful to you, then what I'd suggest is you call now rather than wait, because sometimes people wait till the last minute and I only have just a few seconds to try and answer somebody's question. And it's better to call when I've still got time. So one more time, I'll give you another try. 203-336-9756. Okay, well, let me tell you about the topic that I came in. I wanted to address today. It's a topic. It's interesting for a couple of reasons. One is it's this idea that the skills that I'm sharing on the radio with all of you are skills that are in demand in the workplace. If you pay attention to this and you look at what are people recruiting for these days, there's lots and lots and lots of articles out there. Research studies as well, but much of it in the regular press and in business magazines and human resource journals and all over the place about this idea of soft skills. Soft skills are simply this ability to empathize with somebody else, to really understand what another person is feeling. It's also about your ability to get along with someone, to sometimes put your own needs aside and do something for someone else or for a team, different than maybe what you want to do for you that particular moment or time or day or month or week or whatever. It's also the ability to recognize how you're making somebody else feel and to care about that. It's also the ability to support someone in ways that are unexpected. Sometimes, organizations who allow people to work at home, for instance, or allow people to take some time off to care for aging and ailing parents or young children who might be under the weather and feeling poorly, and being very supportive of that. There's a lot that goes into what we call soft skills. They're also the ability to deal with conflict in a way that's constructive, that doesn't demean somebody else, or holding people accountable for poor performance in a way that's still respectful and holds people's attention and gets them to understand the importance of what you're saying, but doesn't discredit them, doesn't make them feel like a loser or somebody that isn't worthy. So these are considered in the workplace by many as soft skills, while others have said these are the toughest skills, these are the hardest skills. It's easy to do certain things that you can follow analytic decision trees that give you information about how and why you decide on which way to go forward on a project, for instance. There's also a lot of information about how to raise a family and how to raise children. And there's also, by the way, in research and in the public press and in books and in magazines, there's a lot about how do we raise emotionally healthy children. I mean, there has been for a long time. It's not like this is new. But the idea of these being soft skills, I mean, truthfully, they're really hard to do sometimes. So the idea of soft is curious. I mean, it's about trying to get along with the other person. That's why it feels soft. It doesn't feel hard, abrasive, demanding, dictatorial. It feels encouraging. It feels supportive. Even when you're holding people accountable, it's like you're saying to somebody, look, I care about you, and that's why I'm telling you that if you continue to show up late for work, you're not going to be able to sit in that chair. I've got to find somebody who's going to be on time. And it's not because I don't like you. It's not because I don't care about you. I absolutely do. That's why I'm telling you now, and not just letting you go. And so doing things in a way that don't feel, again, confrontational, and yet they definitely are confronting an issue. But you're holding people accountable in a nice way. So if you've got things that you want to learn like that, then one of the ways to do that is to listen to this show. There are also webinars. There's also a lot of books and articles that you can read. And there are many different ways people can learn this. But one of the things that's curious that I just read recently is that a lot of companies say that they hire for these skills, these abilities, these competencies, these traits. And yet, very few companies spend very much to train or develop people in these areas. So on the one hand, we say how important all this is. And on the other, we kind of... We look the other way when people come to us and say, will you support my attending this webinar on getting smarter about people skills, or getting, learning the soft skills, or learning more about how to influence rather than dictate, or being a leader that people want to follow, or whatever it might be. And yet, a lot of times, those kind of requests are turned down. That's curious to me. Because at the same time, you read a lot about that, or I read a lot about that because I read a lot professionally. I also read a lot about how it's the same skills that cause leaders to fail. There's a group called the Center for Creative Leadership that has been doing lots of work over the years on leadership and what causes people to want to follow leaders. And why do leaders who look and appear extremely technically proficient, who can answer any situational question relative to their particular expertise in a very thoughtful and accurate, typically, manner. And yet some of these same people are the ones who are asked to leave by their organizations because so many other people find it difficult to work either with them or for them. Or even sometimes they have them working for them. So it's curious to me that we don't do more to educate people on how to be better at managing their own emotions and understanding the importance of understanding the emotions of those they interact with. Linda Hill is a business professor at Harvard Business School, and she's really brilliant about writing about and helping people move into this role of new supervisor, new manager, first-time person in charge of other people. You know, it seems like if you've seen good role models in your life and you've watched how they've led other people in very positive ways, that you should step into that role sort of just knowing what you need to do. And it's so far from the truth. Because until you've actually had the role and the responsibility of being a leader, you have no clue, honestly, about what it means to lead effectively and have those who you do lead feel like they want to continue to work for you. As an interesting candidate running for office in the large numbers of people running for the Democratic nomination for president. One is Amy Klobuchar, who actually, there's a lot of things I like about Amy, but she has somewhat of a history that she has to overcome of some of her staff saying it was really, really hard working for her. She was so demanding. Now, sometimes people that are very demanding get exceptional results from other people. And you can think about a person that most people will know the name, That's Steve Jobs. And some people, even though he was extremely demanding and very harsh at times with the people that worked for him, he created the iPhone. He created the Mac. He created so many things that are part of what we all use today. I mean, even if we use somebody else's version of it, Steve Jobs was like amazing, right? And Amy Klobuchar might be amazing too. But sometimes when you have a reputation of being hard to work for, it's not a good look. It's not a good look. And yet, as I listen to Amy, I think maybe maybe she's got a chance. Who knows? She seems to be one of those people that is differentiating herself because she's kind of moved to a different place in the Democratic spectrum of what people seem to care about in the party. But in any case, my point is that sometimes if you're a harsh leader who demands a lot of yourself and of others, you attract a certain kind of hard-working, hard-driving, talented group of people that want to stay with you. But those who just want a job and want to go home at the end of the day and don't want to be severely criticized for a mistake or not doing a high-quality job, they don't want to stay around. But maybe you want leaders who are going to demand the best from the people that work with them and surround themselves with highly talented people, also driven to accomplish great things and willing to push themselves really hard. So those are interesting thoughts. But it is true that in the literature, it says that a lot of leaders get derailed or fired or let go or whatever language you want to use because they don't necessarily get along with other people. And I started to say that Professor Linda Hill will say a couple of key questions I've heard her ask. She asked them on our radio show one time. She said, how do people feel when they're with you? Have you ever asked that question? How do people feel when they're with you? How does your daughter feel when she's with you? How does your husband feel when he's with you? Or your wife? And then Linda asked even a more interesting question, I think. And she says, how do they feel about themselves when they're with you? I love that question. How do people feel about themselves when they're with you? I have 3 daughters, and when I was growing up, I didn't have all this knowledge I have today. Of course, you learn things over your lifetime. But over the years, I've learned that one of the things I want to do all the time when I'm around my daughters is I want them to feel proud when they're with me. I want them to feel confident when they're with me. I want them to feel loved when they're with me. I want them to feel supported and encouraged and cared about when they're with me. So I think those are important things to ask yourself in any relationships where it matters. And now all relationships matter, but some obviously more than others. So at home with key family members, ask yourself, how do they feel when they're with me? And second, how do they feel about themselves when they're with me? And if they're not feeling the way you'd like them to feel when they're with you, or how they feel about themselves when they're with you, and you want them to feel the kinds of things I just talked about when they're with you, and when they're thinking about themselves when they're with you, what can you do about it? What can you do to begin changing all of that? Again, I'll give you a chance to call. I've got a few more minutes left. 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. You listen to Chuck Wolf. This is the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. And you're listening to WPKN 89.5 FM in Bridgeport, serving Fairfield, New Haven, and Litchfield counties, in Connecticut and Suffolk County in New York, as well as communities around the world via podcast and streaming at WPKN.org. So, again, one more time on the number, and then I'll just talk you through the rest of the ride wherever you are. 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. I feel bad that I couldn't take the second caller. That's a shame that I don't have somebody who could have put you on hold and you could have talked to me after Tina was done. But I'll give you a chance again if you're listening. 203-336-9756. Two zero three 336-9756. Okay, so recently I answered a question on LinkedIn. I don't know if you belong to LinkedIn. If you're in business, you might be a member. I find it kind of an enjoyable place to post information and see other people's posts that they think are relevant. I often will post things about what would I talk about on the radio? About emotional management, emotional intelligence, my emotion roadmap. So one day recently, I think it was last week, someone asked me, what books would I recommend in case you're interested in reading a book about emotional intelligence or learning more about the idea about how do you be smarter, about dealing with your own emotions and about influencing the emotions of others. And so I thought about three different. I offered three different suggestions. One is I have a couple of friends that I work really closely with. One is the pioneer of emotional intelligence, the ability model. Peter Salve, who's the president of Yale University, and with his colleague Jack Meyer were the two co-authors of this initial seminal work, really, that described these abilities of being able to identify, use, understand, and manage emotions back in the 1990s. And one of their really good friends, who has become a friend of mine, David Caruso, is helped them to write an assessment. The assessment is actually just their names. It's called the Mesquite. And what I mean by their names is it's the Meyer for Jack Meyer, Salve for Peter Salve, Caruso for David, emotional intelligence test, so Mesquite. And this measures your ability. So if you ever wanted to learn how to, how your abilities compare to others, you can ask someone who uses that test to assess you. So they wrote a book. Peter and David did, rather. Peter Salve and David Caruso wrote a book called The Emotionally Intelligent Manager. And I got to influence the book somewhat in some of the work that I was doing with them. And I think it's a great book. I think what Peter and David did was they described these things in a lot of detail. And if you're a reader and you really want something that gives you tools to help you to understand how emotions work, how you might think about what's the best emotion for certain tasks, or how you can become better at identifying emotions in others, and strategies for managing emotions better, I suggest that's a really excellent book for that. So it's called The Emotionally Intelligent Manager. The second book I recommended it says emotional intelligence on one page in about almost I think it's 270 pages or so. I forget the exact number of pages, but it's Danny Meyer, who is a very famous restaurateur who has legendary customer service and experiences for both customers and employees in his restaurants. In Union Square, he has Shake Shack, he has a bunch of restaurants that he's created. But it's the original story, Danny Meyer's story, and it's called Setting the Table. And if you want to see a book about how to make sure customers have an incredible, legendary experience in your particular restaurant, it's a great book. It doesn't go into all the things that I talk about in terms of how do you identify emotions, how do you understand them. It doesn't do that. It just explains what really works in the restaurant business for customers. And one of the things that Danny's discovered that really works to help make this amazing experience happen in his restaurants is that he pays incredible attention to what his employees' needs and emotional wants are. So I recommended that as a second book about applied emotional intelligence called Setting the Table. And the third is I wrote a chapter recently in a book called Professional Principles and Practices in Coaching. I'm very proud of this. I got to write I got singled out. I got asked to write this chapter because the number of people who were editors on the book from Duquesne University in Pittsburgh were looking for world-class people to write specific chapters, and they asked me to write the chapter on emotions. And I wrote a chapter called Successful Coaches Influence Emotions, Thoughts, and Behaviors. And I'll tell you more about that when I come back next time. I want to thank everybody for the opportunity to be here with you, and thank everybody for listening who joined us. Thank Tina for the phone call, and as always, I hope that you have an emotionally intelligent next few weeks before I get back with you on the first and second weeks of the following month. Take care, everybody.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.